Hi folks, very warm welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me. I say warm welcome, it's not that warm actually in here, but we've got some very unspring-like weather in the UK at the moment. It's jolly cold, which is why I'm dressed like this, keep myself warm. Anyway, enough of that. It's time for us to have a bit of another trip down the joy that is reviewing a Wingnut Wings kit that we haven't seen before. And today it's the Junkers D.1. Now this is an interesting aircraft. Bear in mind this is a World War I plane, which, yes, it looks, perhaps to the modern eye, it looks a little bit antiquated. However, it's actually quite high tech, because this is brought out mid-late 1917, and it is an all-metal construction, which is groundbreaking, and it's the first all-metal aircraft in the world at the time. A monoplane, as you can see, so again, pointing the way in design terms to what comes in the Second World War. So we have a couple of elements to it that are very different. So obviously the previous designs had been mainly biplanes, and then the monoplanes were coming through, of course, by the middle of the First World War. But there was still mainly canvas and wood construction with the odd bit of metal here and there, which of course helped them in that they were very light, so they still had a very good power to weight ratio. Now this aircraft, as I understand it, having done a bit of research, it was very strong. They weren't too sure though about, when they did lots of trials, they had two versions, the J7 and the J9. The D1 was the overall designation it was given ultimately. But the two early versions, they weren't too happy with the J7, the first version. It had a poor rate of climb, so they made some changes, I think to the aerodynamics amongst other things, but they made some alterations and they improved it. And they were very impressed with the fact that this is going to be a much more robust aircraft rather than a string bag of cloth and canvas, you know. This was actually a metal aeroplane. I think the pilots felt more confident. However, there's a bit of slight weight penalty, although it had a very powerful, it's an inline 6 BMW engine actually, which is again portent of things to come in terms of modern cars. They use those today. Not quite the same version, of course, but a bit of a weight penalty because you've got, I think the wings in particular are quite heavy, so it does rob the plane of a bit of performance. And when they did these trials, they decided that they felt it wasn't quite manoeuvrable enough, probably because of its power to weight, and it was also, they complained about poor visibility, downward visibility, so didn't actually see very much service in the Luftwaffe and the First World War over the trenches. They actually loaned them off to the Navy. The Navy took the aircraft and were very impressed with it. Thought it was ideal for them, very modern design, you know. But anyway, we shall have a closer look and see what we've got. So, bring your zooming in. Let's have a nice nosy at this. Something. Now, I should state, before we start, I think you know the drill with these, really. The chances of me saying, what a disappointing kit, this is disastrous, it's too expensive, it's stupid money, it's not very well made, blah, 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 blah. None of that is going to happen, okay? We know exactly what we're going to get, and I haven't opened this box yet. Talking of the bags, we can't open the bags because they are quite valuable. Even this one is probably worth about 200 to 250 pounds, but we kind of know it's going to be good, so let's just accept that and kind of enjoy the ride, okay? So here we go, let's have a look. Now then, beautiful artwork as ever. On the side you've got all the different options, and you've got you see it's right at the end of the war. I mean, this plane would have been probably more effective if they'd brought it in a bit earlier. It could have been quite good as an air-to-air fighter, but it just came a bit late, really. So we've got coming in October 1918. Well, that's a month before the end of the war. November 1918 here, right at the end of the war, literally. The armistice, November 18, October 18, and then interestingly, this aircraft was used in 1919 against the Bolsheviks. There was some on the east of Germany. They were having a little bit of local trouble with the Bolsheviks, and there was a bit of a sort of local, kept very quiet, I think, relatively in world terms. A little bit of a conflict went on, and of course, after the armistice, there was these massive restrictions about what the Germans could do with their air force as a part of the armistice agreement, so that was kept well under wraps. Other side, we have this beautiful box, of course, from Wingnut Wings with all the lovely silver leaf on it. Artwork at the end, on both ends, and that's it. So let's have a look inside. To be nice and gentle and careful with this, because it is quite a collector's item. For obvious reasons, as Wingnut Wings are sadly no longer with us. So let's have a look inside. Oh, right, well the thing that strikes you immediately with this one is, of course, that it's ribbed corrugated steel. So everything is corrugated. And it makes it feel quite heavy, I have to say. So let's take them all out gently. Let's see what we have got. And the instructions are open, which is good. That means we can at least read the instructions, which is always a pleasure. With Wingnut's instructions are almost like reading a book, like a reference book. And here we have it. So actually I'll just those over there. There we are. Now then, it says the revolutionary Junkers D.1 was an all-metal monoplane fighter and entered service in late 1918. Can trace its lineage back to Professor Hugo Victor's patent for a thick cantilever wing design to increase lift and reduce drag. It was a ferromagnetic steel-skinned two-seat J1 monoplane that acted as the experimental version, named J1. I won't read all this out, but yes, it gives you the background. Daimler says the early versions had this Daimler Mercedes engine, and then the later ones had this BMW 6-cylinder inline engine. Daimler Mercedes. Oh, did I say Daimler Mercedes? Sorry, it's a Daimler Mercedes, not a BMW engine. I'm sure I read that was a BMW. Wikipedia and Wingnut Wings appear to be disagreeing, but we won't worry about that. We'll stick with this, okay? So, let's have a proper look inside. It says, by the way, just out of interest, that the maximum height 6,000 feet. It's got two 7.92 Spandau machine guns, maximum speed of 109 miles an hour. Doesn't sound that high for the end of World War I. It sounds a little bit short, doesn't it? That's probably what the problem was. Right, anyway, as usual, we have this nice colour, nice glossy, beautifully printed instruction book, which has got all the parts shown on the sprue trees. Gives you Tamiya, Humbrol and Federal Standard as the options in terms of your paint guide here, which is very helpful. And then we get into the cockpit. So you're building up, it starts off with the magazines and empty belt chutes for the front of the cockpit, and then you've got the floor coming in, and don't forget this is all metal, so it's completely different to what they had before. And one of the problems they had with getting this out in time before the war was over was the fact that it was quite slow to build, I think, and it was using stamped sheet steel. A much slower process in terms of the actual bolting together than the normal production at the time with wood and canvas, etc. So you build up your sides and floor of your cockpit area here with a little framework, rudder pedals going in, grease pump, a manual grease pump, how about that? Instrument boards going in here. Then you bring all that together and put in your seat and the bulkhead behind the seat goes there. Water pipes, engine bearers, gravity fuel tank and the shell chutes. And then we've got some interior rigging. Here we go. Interior rigging, and it's to make it nice and clear, they colour code it, which is very helpful. So you've got 0.5mm, 0.15mm, and then the same for the rudder and altimeter. Now those are the same, so they've colour coded them so you can separate which is which. And then same for the trigger cables for the guns. So quite a lot of rigging there, quite a lot of detail. And then there's actually a proper photograph here, two photographs in fact, showing the interior of that area, the front half of the cockpit, how it all fits together. complete with a painting guide. Daimler Mercedes engine, 180 brake horsepower. That sounds quite a lot, doesn't it, for 1918? But anyway, it's very good. Some lovely photographs of the actual engine here. Looks like somebody's rebuilt it, in fact. I'll bet this is Wingnut Wings' own from their stables down in New Zealand, I expect. And then you're building up that engine. So as I said, I thought it was BMW, I was wrong. It was a 6-cylinder inline Daimler-Benz. It shows everything. It's got your cylinders, crankcase, crank itself. Wonderful. And then you've got your exhaust system. It's so small, isn't it? Very simple. And over here we've got some more beautiful photos of the actual engine. Showing all the rockers, horizontal air pump, overhead camshafts, the rocker details here. Water jacketed intake manifold. Mount for the generator can be seen on the right. And we've just lost our power, folks. So we've got a power cut. That's great, isn't it? So it's a good job I've got the lights on, because you... Oh, I'm going to get the lights back on? Yes, we are going to get the lights back on. Okay, we'll carry on. Sure what happened there. Then we've got... yeah, you can see that the... it's got here the wireless transmitter. And it says here, you can see on the right, the actual generator was very rarely installed in fighter aircraft unless it was used to power an electrically heated flight suit or a wireless transmitter. So they would have a non-onboard generator, but this one has got. Well, it's optional, isn't it? There's a mount for it here, basically. I mean, it's a weight thing. I suppose they're quite heavy things, really. The red bands here are clearly visible to archive photos and should be applied around every cylinder to indicate that they are over-compressed. They are over-compressed, ready to go. Okay. Rear of the engine shows the magneto and generator belt cover details. It's beautifully detailed, isn't it? Anyway, back onto the fuselage. And we've got here, there's a little tab you need to remove on the side, actually. Does that... I think it's specific to one version. And then we've got the tail skid going in, and we have got your radiator at the front being mounted up, which is very nice. And again, they make it so clear with these beautiful 3D sort of animation style colour renderings. Very, very clear to understand. Beautiful exhaust manifold. Look at that. That's really nice. That's quite something, isn't it? Okay. Then we've got the wings. Now this is where it all looks a bit agricultural, doesn't it? Because you've got this corrugation. It says, note the aileron control horn and that the fairing for the wing joint has been removed. The fairing for the wing joint. Okay. It's talking about this piece here. Then you can see that here. Fairing. Where the join is. Photographs show the camouflage colours were not sprayed on. And it says the wing root detail from the Junkers D.1. The very pale joint lower fairing, which is clearly painted independently of the rest of the wing here. And then we're putting on our wings. So you've got ailerons to go in as well. You have the top and bottom section to the wing. It's in two pieces there. And then you've got diorama display options where you could remove the fairings as per that photograph we've just seen up here. So down here they're saying you can remove that if you want to. And then we're into the fuselage details and armament. And we've got footstep. There's a footstep built into the side, which you can see. Oops, which you can see here. There we go. How's that? So yeah, we've got these footsteps here. Different designs of footstep. Early versions and later versions. So they go on the side. And then you've got your Spandau machine guns, which look very strange, don't they, without without the cooling jacket, so that you then put the cooling jacket on, which is photo etch. It seems as though there are two versions. I think it's talking about high detail here, it says. Now I think what they're trying to say is that there's either an alternative set, or they're talking about annealing. You can anneal it. Visit Wingnut Wings for hints and tips on how to anneal. So I think that that's basically telling you about the different techniques of how to actually get the effect, because it doesn't appear that that's solid. It's a little bit unclear. I'll have a look at that when we look at the parts. So it's either or, but you put them in at the end, and then we're off to the undercarriage and final assembly here. Engine cowling's going on, and then you've got your propeller with a great big nut going on, as you can see there. Note the partially detached engine panel. It just looks like corrugated sheet, doesn't it? It's incredible, really. But you've got to understand how advanced this was. It may look crude because it's corrugated, but if you ignore that, then it's actually very advanced. It is. So, you know, it's the first metal aeroplane, fighter plane in the world, basically. Rigging material not supplied. So, a rigging guide. Here we go. We've got the wings here, very chunky looking. Wings and tail removed in this picture, it says. Main petrol tank is in the wing root and the starboard engine cowling. Oh, that's the main petrol tank there. Gosh, triangular shaped thing. It's a bit vulnerable under there, doesn't it, from ground fire? But anyway, and then yes, because it's such a strange design. It's sort of, you finish it before you realise, and then you've got all these different options. So you've got this interesting sort of a pinky, sort of purpley colour with green, or like a plum coloured one here, which is quite nice. And again, these wonderful reference photographs. You know, it doesn't feel like instructions for a kit, does it? It feels like a book we're reading. There's another plum coloured one, Home Beak, November 1918, and there's various examples shown in the hangars. And then we have another one here, October 18, which is like a pale grey style. And then another, this is the one that ends up, I think, fighting the Bolsheviks in 1919. And then I've got various examples here. There's a number of unidentified Junkers D.1s being prepared for flight in mid-1919. Yeah, this is this operation against the Bolsheviks, I'm sure of it. And there's an example here of an abandoned one, 1919, it's been shot down. It's got machine gun bullet holes. Must have seen some action before the armistice and has been shot down. Because as you can see, it's got lots of bullet holes in it. And some wonderful photos here, look at this. And then we've got different versions that are in the actual the factory, it looks like. Junkers factory, August 18. And it's got pointing out which versions they are. Which versions that the wings are that are on the floor as well. And then they've got the prototype. Several of the prototype photographs as well. Brilliant, isn't it, really? This is I've got to say, this is one of the best instructions in terms of the content that we've seen yet, and they've all been good. And they're going into real detail here about the individual aircraft that have been identified and specifics. Which version is which, whoops, which version is which. And which camouflage they're wearing, and trying to identify which squadron they're going to, etc. As here, unidentified 200 horsepower Daimler Mercedes powered Junkers is seen here in early 1919. There's a cutaway cockpit front fairing which was a feature of the later production from this unit. The fuselage weathering and camouflage is similar to that seen on the uncowed aircraft seen on page 21. That one, uncovered at the bottom. And they're speculating about whether that might be the aircraft. Well, there we go, and of course it finishes as it always does. Wingnut Wings always very, very nicely sort of give tribute to the people that have made this possible. And of course we now miss those guys because they're no longer there. So let's have a look at what the plastic is like. Starting with, let's say, you'll have to forgive me, I'm not going to be taking them out of the bag because the item is too valuable really. But I can still get a good look at it, I think. So we've got here, to just reduce a little bit of the light. That's better. Lovely, couple of lovely propeller options here. That looks really nice. We've got all the engine. And with these World War I aircraft, I've been caught out before. And by the way, there's actually 2 more options for props at the bottom. I hadn't spotted that. So there's 4 different props, 4 different versions. Some of these engines, sometimes it's easy to confuse the sump with the cylinder head because they don't look dissimilar. But anyway, we've got the main part of the engine here, and we've got the cam covers. I think this is for sure the cam covers here. Although again, it looks like there are in fact 2 versions of that. I think must be the later, the 200 horsepower model we just talked about in the book. But again, look how finely moulded it is. You know, we've got a sprue there that's nice and flat. It's not warped. It's not all twisted, and there's no parts that look like they are broken. Are you listening, Meng? Because we're talking to you. Yeah, Wingnut Wings got this perfect every time. Meng have done this with the triplane, and we won't go into all the details again, but they've made a real mess of it, to be honest. They've got parts broken, and more importantly, they've got parts that are severely warped, i.e. the wings. So I actually saw a modeller had done in the UK on a well-known forum for modellers. A modeller had done a beautiful job of this the triplane DR1, Fokker triplane, and nobody noticed. It was like the Emperor's New Clothes. I didn't say anything, but nobody noticed that the wing was bent like seagull had been dihedral. Not right. That's not correct. It shouldn't have any dihedral in it. It's not the modeller's fault. Not going to go at anybody, apart from Meng, because Meng have sent it out like that, and all the wings are warped. So the only way you can get around it is to do what somebody I know has done, and that's have a real play around with some hot water and maybe heat and lots of patience, and try and get them straight, because if you just build it straight from the box, you're going to have it looking a bit like a bent wing bird. You know, it's going to be a lot of dihedral it shouldn't have. It should be completely straight. But there we go. Let's not dwell on that. Let's get back to this lovely Junkers. Look at this. Look, these beautiful formers here. And again, making the point I just said about the quality of Wingnut Wings is being, you know, beyond doubt. I mean, just look at this. Beautiful parts there. This is the it's like the wing mounting, isn't it, into the fuselage, where they kind of slot in. You've got your wheels here and tyres, which look fantastic. So the actual other side of the hubs of the wheels are there. And then we've got various parts of this lattice work that is the design for the cockpit construction. We've got the seat here, again corrugated steel by the look of it. And we've got the, looks like, is that the seat back? Part of the seating area. Yeah, that's the actual seat you sit on. The padding of the seat underneath. And then you've got spars, and again, look how finely moulded they are. You know, they're not warped, they're not broken, they're perfect. Typical Wingnut standard. Yeah, these are made by perfectionists, these kits for sure. And here's your Spandau machine guns. Oh, okay, so there's 2 versions of the Spandau, going back to when I was a bit confused when I looked at the instructions. So you've got this one here, which is not, you're going to detail it up with the photo etch, and there it is. Sorry, now I'm jumping around here, but it's important. There's your photo etch. So you use that and wrap it around the outside of here, or you cheat and you go for the pre-moulded one, which is here, which I think with a bit of detail it can still look nice, but not going to be quite as good. Not going to be quite as good, I don't think. Just a little bit less, because it's not open, it won't have that same effect. But you know, the way that these parts are formed, there's your exhaust, of course. We talked about that nice looking exhaust for the manifold. There. Stunning. Lovely, lovely, lovely. Got some nice big decal sheet here. Plenty of decals. There's quite a few stencils on this one as well. And as we said, that's the there isn't a lot of photo etch in this one actually. For whatever reason, I decided not to do that, but it's nice to be able to see that evocative Wingnut Wings logo, isn't it? It's very nice. And this is, I say, the bit you wrap around your Spandau machine gun, which looks very nice. And that's the seat belt. This is actually the seat belt and the gun sights. Oops, gun sights, seat belts. That's kind of it, really. And then we've got two other sprues, which I think are quite meaty ones. So let's have a good look at these. Oh, yeah, okay. So now we're on to the wings. And we've got this corrugated steel, pressed corrugated steel. You can see the detail of it really well there. So makes it look quite weighty, doesn't it? And we've got the ribbing just beautiful, I have to say. Look at that. And you've got your ailerons here. Whoops, focus trouble. Ailerons there again. That's all one piece, not two halves. It's so nicely done. And as I just said, you know, we've got beautiful sprues here. They're not warped. They're absolutely perfect. Superb. Definitely worthy of Wingnut Wings. No question about it. It's just striking to see what looks like a load of material that you expect to be on the roof of a building, really. But that's just the early days, you know. It was the quickest way to produce a strong construction was to use corrugated steel. And it's certainly very faithfully replicated there, I have to say. And then last but not least, we have all of the big sprue for the fuselage, which again, we have got a lot of corrugation going on here. So go a bit closer for you, because that you can see there the detail and how they've replicated the finish is brilliant. Even with the sort of ribs in it every so often. Underneath, that's the underside with all of its corrugation. Very, very nice. The opposite side here. And then you've got underneath the tail section here where they've got this, yeah, it must just be a pressed, huge, great section of corrugated steel in that shape, just pressed out like a tin can, really, I guess. In fact, one's above and one's below. These two, that one's below and that one's above. And then you've got your tail plane again, all corrugated. There. Above and below. And then we've got the elevator here. Some fine moulding. It's lovely, really is. And then finally the rudder, of course. Slightly strange shape, but that's the rudder. Corrugated again. So it's all corrugated steel construction. Well, I have to say, in terms of the kit itself, there's no surprises and no nasties at all there. quite interesting, obviously, to see a World War I aircraft that is basically all metal, something that we're not used to. So it makes it a very interesting plane, and a beautiful rendition of it from Wingnut Wings, who are sadly no longer with us, which is a great shame. But these items are highly collectible, and if you have one of them in your collection, I am jealous of you. And you've probably got something there that's worth about $300 or $400 in the States, and probably £250 in the UK. In this particular case, the prices on these actually they seem to have stabilised a bit, but they're still changing hands. Some of them for silly money, and there's big variances in price as well. I think if you can try and get your hands on one in your local market, be you in Canada or the UK or wherever, if you can avoid a lot of transport costs and transit, you know, the packaging and the shipping costs is what really makes it very, very expensive. Quite apart from the kit itself, of course, which is a desirable item. Of that, there's no doubt. So anyway, there we have it. It's the D.1, the first all-metal fighter plane. It's a monoplane for the Germans in World War One. Came in too late to really help them. The war was pretty much over, but you can see how it set the trend for the design of things to come. You know, you think about the Junkers, the Ju-52, which of course was the transport plane, and that was all the same, corrugated steel. It's all there, isn't it? The design is coming. You know, you can see that this is the trend-setting aircraft that starts it all off. It's kind of the genesis of it. Anyway, I hope you thought that was interesting. Thank you very much for joining me. If you did enjoy the video, please give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. And if you have subscribed already, don't forget to ding the little notification bell, because you'll get the next forthcoming video early warning if you get that dinged. And of course, this is going to be one of a number of these Wingnuts kits that I'm going to be reviewing, none of which I've seen before, so they're all quite enjoyable. I do enjoy these. I know that some of my audience have complained and think I'm teasing them because it's so hard to get hold of one yourself. Same applies to me, you know. I don't own this one, but it's just nice to handle something and see something that's been so well executed, something that's premium quality. So let's look forward to the next one anyway. Anyway, thanks for joining me in the meantime. I hope you'll stay well. Thanks for your time, and until the next vid comes up and we meet again, thanks a lot. Bye for now.